Obviously, you know my guests. If you're here, you obviously love the films. We've got Robert Brian Wilson and Eric Freeman. And you guys are brothers in real life or just brothers in the movies?
Just brothers in the movie.
Just in the movies, guys. I'm not going to get into too much about the movies because I know we're going to open this up for the fans to ask questions about the films. So I'm going to, I want to talk because, one thing that Silent Night, Deadly Night was in the era of the video store era, right? So you guys, were probably aware of, the impact that those films had on a generation, but also the impact of that kind of, late night culture, like the way that the films were, kind of guerrilla style of releasing, they had the trucks going around, videotapes. Like, were you guys involved at all when those films came out in the way that they were released, or did you guys get to feel any of that?
For myself, no,
Yeah.
I was not involved in any of that. It was just one of those things where I shot the film, got on a plane, went home, and a few months later they said, hey, it's going to be released, and that was all that I was aware of. And then a couple of weeks later it was pulled because of the content.
But did that have any, when it got pulled, did you, obviously were recognizable at the time, did you ever have any encounters personally because of the way that those films were pulled and impacted that way as well?
Myself, no. I never had anyone come up. Nothing ever came from the film that was negative or positive. No one really said much about it, to be quite honest. As a matter of fact, Hollywood, some folks thought that you might be just pushed around in Hollywood because of doing a film of that sort. According to Siskel and Ebert, we should all be pushed into a hole. But the fact that Hollywood is, I find it a very forgiving town. Filmmakers are very forgiving. They're basically like, hey man, these people are just hired to do a job. They're going to do the best they can, and then if there's press negative afterwards, that's no reflection on the actor. He's just basically, we stand in lines to get these jobs. We're trying to get jobs all the time. So fortunately, Hollywood didn't have any backlash on me at that time. As a matter of fact, I think I walked away from that and might have went right into a soap opera or something in New York City.
But you never had any angry parents?
No.
Tipper Gore was whispering in her ear or anything like that, saying that you guys were chop people up with axes and stuff. So that's good.
Yeah, it was
cool.
cool.
You hear a lot of that from these films, and I guess Silent Night, Deadly Night would be on a higher tier of those released films though too, because you did have studio backing, you guys, and everything as well. So it wasn't so much as the dirty indie stuff. You guys actually were treated well, I guess.
Yeah. No, you're really talking about Robert's release because that, got all the controversy and.
That's right.
And I guess when we look at that now, I would imagine it's probably for the best in a way, for longevity, and just because the internet and then all the interest in Robert's film. And my film came about just on the sheer fact I did my film and I moved on very quickly. I thought, well, it's going to die. There were so many films being churned out back in that day that we weren't concerned about even looking at it. Do the work, get paid, and move on. But I guess that I don't have much to say other than my movie is if it weren't for Robert, I wouldn't be here, kind of thing. So they just wanted to lighten up Robert's movie and initially just send it back out there, re-edit it, send it back, but they decided to have a lot of Robert's content and half the movie is the original and then new footage.
Yeah.
So there we are.
And you know what though? You look at comparatively as well. Both the first two Silent Night, Deadly Night films have their own notoriety. Mm-hmm. Obviously the controversy surrounding the first release. The Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 really, it came far later. Don't you feel like it really kind of regained its legs, and
Yes.
people rediscovered it? Kind of when, I mean, there's a new generation kind of rediscovering the VHS tape, and that kind of boom was probably about even 10 years ago or so, and that really the collectors and people kind of rediscovering this stuff really kind of did you guys notice that research? Like, when did that happen? That must have been like.
Well, I know a bit about what it was for Robert, and it much the same for myself. If it weren't for the net and just people, I remember that movie, and my brother used to watch that, or my father used to, my dad showed it to me back in the day, and so the popularity it has increased since '83 or '87 in my case, and but it's cool. I didn't know about it 5 years ago. I was found out about the garbage day thing and all that. So it's nice. We've talked together, Robert and I, several times about that. It's nice that people are going back to these '80s films and with great joy in their heart, and they love it. So
We love it, right? Come on. No, I don't know. Let's see another talking point. So, you guys are both obviously still very busy working. Like, what are you guys up to now? I mean, we got you here based because of the love of Silent Night, Deadly Night. But I mean, like, let's fill the fans in. Like, what are we following you?
Right.
Let's get caught up.
Well, for myself, gosh, that goes back so far. I stepped away from the business.
Yep.
I pursued it for about 10 or 11 years, and then I had children at home, and great kids, great family, great wife. But I wanted to kind of move on with my life. I never really grew up wanting to be an actor as a kid. It was just one of those things. I was down in Palm Springs with my girlfriend, who's now my wife of 30 years. We were down there celebrating like a little weekend away from high school, college, and it was then that I was met by a manager who was down there in Palm Springs vacationing, and he asked if I'd ever been in Hollywood and done movies and whatnot, and I said, of course not. And I really wanted to just enjoy the weekend with my girlfriend, and he kept kind of bugging, and finally he gave me his card, and I thought it was really silly. I flipped the card in the room when we got back to the hotel room, said like, whatever. And then began to question whether I should have flipped the card or not. Anyway, my girlfriend then told me to go ahead and pursue it. I did. It was a real lead. The guy was a genuine manager in Hollywood. Next thing I know, I'm doing this film. I did the film for a while, never really, like I said, wanting to pursue Hollywood. I did the film, did some other things in Hollywood for about 9-10 years, and then decided it would be best if I went back to being just a normal dude and try and manage my family and nurture them as best I could. And here we are. So I stepped away from Hollywood after doing some gigs, some primetime stuff, of course this film, some daytime TV, and then just moved on with my life into some other stuff. I've been working in the trade show industry, which is what we're doing here, as a matter of fact. But I've worked in the trade show industry now for about 25 years, and it's been great for my family. And but in the meantime, the last few years, I've done a couple pieces here and there with some folks that are in Hollywood that are still doing films and whatnot, and I'll go and do a role here or there for them. I still enjoy it very, very much. And the fact that I live in Burbank, California, which is just over the hill from Hollywood, I do look forward to getting back to it someday. But to shorten it up, I guess, or to stop this answer, I kind of moved away from it all. Still loving it, still enjoying it, but just family and responsibilities were more important. And very thankful that things have worked out because, again, my children are great, my wife's great, and I'm real happy with my life.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Hey, very similar. I kind of summed it up. My life is very similar to Robert's in the sense that, and this happens to everybody. Life happened when I was making plans. I was all about, getting more gigs and getting more work, and I was in Hollywood, just same as Robert. And we audition and audition and audition, and you score something, or you go on a callback, and you're with some heavy hitters, some big actors that are already on network TV, and you're auditioning for a show on that same network. So a lot of times I'd find out I would be just backup. I would be the backup guy in case A. Martinez decided not to do that show. And they say, hey, we got that Freeman kid, he was pretty good, or whatever. But certain circumstances in my life pulled me away from the business, and that can happen to anyone. They have plans, and they're focused. Many people in the audience here, that you have plans of going a certain way, and you're absolutely adamant that you're going to do this, and life intervenes. So that's in a nutshell. And Robert's got a great family, best choice he ever had. I've met his family. He's got a great life. And so, the acting thing I've seen too many guys get churned up by it and left in the wayside. So, good choice. So, yeah.
Hey, I've seen, with you, Eric, as well, I've seen videos online. You do music as well? Are you a musician somewhat? Or do you just play, dabble?
I play guitar. I restore Stratocasters, old ones. Ones I like. It's always like a love affair, and fix them and sell them. But yeah, I play guitar. Some would say horribly, some would say you're all right, but I just enjoy it. I'm kind of one of the guys that play it on side of your bed kind of guys,
That's all right, though.
Yeah, amp and no amp, I don't care.
That's
just
awesome.
Learn. I like whatever I'm doing. If I didn't have any hands, I don't know what I'd do, because I'm always fixing something. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to think. Should we get into audience questions? We want to talk about the movies, right? Does anyone? Where's Duker? Duker, you want to come grab a mic? We can pull it out. Oh, they just come up to the mic stand. Okay, let's get some people up to the mic. If you want to ask some questions to the gentleman, we're going to ask about the movies. Nathan, come on up. You can start.
I'll be here for somebody else. I'll run up to the mic and ask myself a question if you like.
Just start with the simple stuff, right? Most iconic kill, your favorite kill.
Well, I would just say it's really cool listening to the three of you converse about these wonderful movies that certainly are a big part of my enjoyment of the genre. But I would say I saw Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 when I was a kid before I even saw Part 1, which was curious to me because I was like, okay, I had no idea what the heck was going on. There's flashbacks to the original, which was great, So anyway, it was interesting to see Part 2 first, I guess, because then I didn't even see the first one until probably 10 years later, It was an interesting situation, but it made me appreciate the darkness of Part 1, and certainly some of the lighthearted delivery of some of your lines, I would say, in Part 2, and the dynamic of there's these two brothers. You don't even really remember the fact that there's this baby in the car in the first one that, for good or ill, turns out just as insane as his older brother, So it's cool, and even better, I've never seen any of the other 5 or 10 Silent Night. I kind of felt like what a perfect story of these two brothers, and what the hell happened? Like, was it just the killing of their parents by Santa Claus that flipped them? Because I can imagine there must have been some family dynamic that could have maybe screwed them up a bit. Because I don't know. Every kid hates their parents, at some point. So would it have been that traumatic? I'm not sure.
There'll be a new Silent Night, Deadly Night, like they're rebooting and remaking it. They haven't done that yet.
I want them to.
You should get on board. Let's pitch the idea. Silent Night, Deadly Night reboot, but its focus is on the parents, and the Santa that kills the parents is actually not the psycho at all. It's the parents that were psycho.
Yeah.
It was in the blood.
Yeah.
That's why the kids are psycho. Santa had nothing to do with it. Santa was like
Mrs. Claus.
Santa was the real Santa. He was like, this isn't just the naughty list. This is like a little extreme, folks.
Yeah.
But then,
so I guess, thank you for just appearing in a couple of my more memorable movie watches as a kid, and
Yeah.
then a bit later in life.
Did you
It's-
actually have a question though?
Well, I would just say, I think most importantly, in terms of the script, when you guys first got the script for part one and then for part two, what did you think? And could you, reading the script, even sort of foresee the impact that it may have had on people? You know, the positive impact, the cult following that these movies brought, going from initial reading the script to 30 plus years later, here we are talking about it still.
I can answer real quick for myself. First time reading the script, I was blown away by all the killing, you know, and then the stage direction about how it was all going to happen and whatnot. So I was blown away by it. I was very excited about doing the film, very excited about, you know, getting into costume and finding my way through the stuff and doing the killing. That was my favorite part, of course. You know, the killing that it takes on the whole crew takes on a different energy that day when you're going to do the killing scenes. You know, it was a fun deal. Just looking at the script, I just was excited to go and do it. I didn't have any idea that it was going to turn into what it had. You know, 2 weeks after its release, that it was going to be pulled. I didn't see that. Because at that time, you know, in the 80s, they were doing a lot of films like that were just slashers. And so I felt like this was just another slasher, and I, just did my best to be honest in the words. Of course, you guys know that Santa Claus going around killing wasn't cool at that time. Not that it's cool now, but I mean, it was just a film, and you know, it got really blown out. And of course, like I said, Siskel and Ebert panned it and thumbs downed it. And but I had no idea that it would turn into anything like this, and the fact that Eric and I are sitting here talking about it, there was never, ever a thought of anything like this. You know, 35, 40 years later, sitting here talking to you folks about this film. Seriously, 2 weeks, it got pulled. And at that point in my mind, I'm like, this thing's over. I'm not gonna have to deal with it ever again. I'm not gonna have to, whatever the news magazines are out there, Time Life, whoever it is that wants to interview me and ask me why I did the film, I'm never gonna have to deal with these people again. It's over. And then here we are. So it's been great.
Well, it's a good question. You know, the reading of the script. I didn't have a script because there wasn't one. In a sense, the director was an editor, and his partner Joe Earl had dreamed up additional footage to. Robert's movie is great because it was just beautifully dark, and Santa Claus killing Mother Superior, trying to, but that was the problem of the people that owned the movie had wanted to just edit this original movie to, I don't know, take out some of the more harsh elements, but the editors had decided that, look, we could do part two. We could lighten it up, and it could be the brother taking over for the brother, and so there was no script for me to look at, and it was just, there were some sporadic little sides interspersed with the original content, but the director Lee Harry and Joe were acting out the scenes that they had written to me, and they were laughing the whole time. So I had not seen the movie. I took on my character not knowing what the heck he ever did, because I never saw it. I was like many other people. I did not know what his movie was. I didn't know of it. I didn't know that Siskel and Ebert had just killed it, and so I did what I did. I guess for the best now, because people like this, but had I known the background, I'm absolutely sure I would have made different choices. But all in all, I think the movies were made well back then, and that movie of Robert's in my mind, and for the footage was done and how he seamed it in, I think he did a fabulous job for $100,000. And I worked for 5 days, and I think Robert worked for 2 or 3 weeks, something. Yeah, and I mean, Rob did a great job. I mean, just a great job, and I was like chewing scenery and going crazy, but the demands of what they wanted, that's where I needed to go. I kind of did Jack Nicholson in The Shining, but like over the top and beyond belief to a comical level. So I knew how horrible it was while I was doing it, but it was just what it was wanted. So, no, we had a great time. We both had great times on the set, and it was good. It's always fun to do these things, and it's work and it's late hours. But I mean, if that's what you want, if you want to get in the acting field, and I'm sure there's people in here that want to do that, it's fun. We're all actors to some level or every day, all of us. So it was a gig, and I think it was $1,500 for me, 5 days, and over starting Tuesday, and I think it was Saturday. There wasn't any time. There was no script. I didn't know what I was doing. I show up and ask, well, what pages are we on today? And so that I don't want to be too long-winded, but yeah, look, we're here 30 plus years later, and sometimes these conventions are just packed, and they're waiting for hours just to get our autograph, and sometimes it's quiet, but the interest is always out there for Robert's film. I mean, people just love what he did, and however many people I see, he sees twice as much. We both wonder when it's going to end, but it doesn't. And so I do thank you for showing up. Those that like the films, they're great.
And it's interesting too in the social media sense. The first one is remembered for the controversy, but then because of social media and everything, part two is like almost on an equal pedestal, like Garbage Day. That's almost every other page somebody is sharing that
once a week,
that clip or that picture or whatever. So I mean, it's pretty incredible.
I blasted my day job. I blasted for the employees on Garbage Day, so they remember that they got to get the stuff to the curb. otherwise they're gonna get taken out. You know what I mean?
Hey, I saw a fan come up to me in New Jersey, and she said, "Where's Eric?" And Eric wasn't at that particular show, and she goes, "I want to show you something." And she had a tattoo of Eric saying "Garbage Day," and I'm not going to tell you where.
Oh my God!
How about that?
That's wild. We got time for one more question or no questions? Anybody? One more quick one? No? You know what? If you guys think of something, if you want to, you can come on down. Both these gentlemen are going to be here today and tomorrow. They're right down in the shock stock zone, and they're signing photos, taking photos, signing pictures for everybody. And then we've got a photo op coming up. You guys are down in the suits.
Yes, sir.
And
Christmas cards.
We're making so get your Christmas card photo. Get up there, get a photo with these guys.